Recently we took a look at the brand new video doorbell from Aqara, and while lots of you really liked the price point and the feature set, many of you expressed disappointment at the missing Home Assistant integration and lack of RTSP. Two features which today's challenger hopes to rectify, so let's find out which is the best video doorbell for you. Rectify. Full transparency, as always, Reolink did send over the video doorbell for me to review. Actually, quite a while ago now, I just kind of forgot. But it's not sponsored by Reolink or anything like that. So the Reolink doorbell is an all-black construction with the only real colour coming from its LED ring around the push button. The camera is an improvement over the Aqara, with the Reolink boasting a 5 megapixel 2560 by 1920 sensor compared to the 1080p sensor of the G4, though the Aqara kind of beats it on field of view, which we will talk more about in just a second. The Reolink is also so much smaller in comparison to the G4, which, let's be honest, is a chonky boy. The Reolink is much smaller and more discreet. Underneath the unit is a little pin slot to remove the Reolink from the mount, and round the back we find these screw terminals for power. Yep, this is a battery powered unit only, no battery or gaping holes like we see with the Aqara. However, the Reolink does have an Ethernet port, meaning you can wire this up for the fastest connection, and this doorbell is available in two different versions, a Wi-Fi version like I have here, or a PoE or Power over Ethernet version, meaning you can power this from a PoE switch along with providing the data. The SD card slot allows you to record directly to an SD card, although unfortunately for Reolink they decided to include it inside of the doorbell itself, meaning if your doorbell gets stolen, then so does the footage. You can, however, also record to a Reolink NVR, but that has some issues. Again, we will talk about those in just a second. Finally, the Reolink doorbell comes in at £110 for the PoE version and £120 for the Wi-Fi version, so pretty much identical in price to the Aqara, which makes this an even more spicy comparison. Just like the Aqara, the Reolink also comes with an included and also mandatory Chime unit that you have to plug in if you want the Chime to work. You cannot use your own Chime, which is really frustrating. So far, the Eufy Dual is the only doorbell that I've used so far that has that feature. Anyways, the difference with the Chime unit here is that it's not required for the doorbell to connect to your Wi-Fi or network like it is with the Aqara. This simply does the Chime. It doesn't handle any video transmission or recording, just plug this into any available plug and away it goes. It's also worth mentioning that the Reolink will accept 12 to 24 volts AC power or 24 volts DC power. And something else to note is that for my doorbell transformer, I had to bridge two of the connections inside of the unit, otherwise the doorbell would continuously reboot with the LED flashing. Reolink does document this on their website, but I thought I'd mention it as it's a little bit annoying to have to do, and it's not something that I had to do for the Aqara, but my brain is too small to understand why you would have to do this in the first place. The Reolink app is very familiar if you have used any of their cameras before, and it's much better suited to playing back footage and seeing the history of events than the Aqara app is, which makes sense, right, since Reolink exclusively makes cameras, so their app is more tailored for viewing cameras. Opening up the live stream is really snappy, I'd say on par with the Aqara one, and no issues from me there. You can then easily tap to talk, use the quick replies which will play a pre-recorded message or playback clips. The clip playback is better in my opinion as it gives you more of a timeline view and you can see what type event triggered the recording with the little icons which will show person detection or just regular motion. One thing that's annoying though is that as soon as you click the playback button, it automatically takes you to the very first event for that day rather than staying on the live stream until you select an event. Not a big deal, but just something I noticed. The settings also have way more granular control over the camera itself, things like changing the brightness, quality, FPS and bitrate for both the high and low quality streams, and motion zones, which I mentioned was missing from the G4. And if you use the Reolink desktop app, you can change other settings about the image like contrast, sharpness and saturation, among a few other things. Responsiveness is pretty good as mentioned, the live stream opens really quickly, Notifications came through nice and quickly too, though we will talk a bit more about the notifications in just a sec, and generally it's pretty good to use. In terms of lag, I'd say more than an acceptable amount, maybe slightly more delay to it than the Aqara does, but still overall pretty good. As mentioned, you can record to the SD card, which is inside of the unit, and you can record continuously or on motion or person detection. You can also record to a Reolink NVR if you have one with other cameras, although at the moment there is a bit of a bug in it which actually prevents me from adding this to my NVR. According to Reolink's documentation, you just simply connect the doorbell to your router, plug in your NVR to the same router, and it should auto-magically discover it. The problem is, if you look closely, you'll see that they want both devices to be on the same subnet or VLAN or it won't work, and there is no way to manually add it. I spoke to Reolink about this and they were like, oh, just connect it to the same network, and I'm like, no. So basically, if you use VLANs or a segregated network, even if those two devices can communicate perfectly well with each other, there is a chance that this won't work for you and you won't be able to manually add it. Reolink says that this is intentional. I'm saying it's either a bug or a bad decision. Image quality is where I think the Reolink really starts to edge out the Aqara by quite a bit. During the day, we definitely see the higher resolution come into play here with a sharper image along with the increased bitrate. It's worth mentioning that both of these were mounted in the exact same position, and you can see that the Aqara does have the wider horizontal field of view at 162 degrees versus the 134 of the Reolink, but it does have a lesser vertical field of view, as you can see here. But overall, was really impressed with the daytime image. Dynamic range was good, detail was good, and I'd say that this is probably the best image I've personally seen from a video doorbell before, which makes sense given their camera building experience. Nighttime footage is also an improvement, but with a little bit of a caveat. I did find that sometimes the IR wouldn't come on automatically at night, presumably because there was enough light, and you can see that when the IR is off, it actually looks pretty bright, all things considered. But then when the IR would trigger on, you can see that it leaves quite a big bright spot on the door and darkens the rest of the image, making it difficult to see the path. I thought this would be a problem for faces, however it actually seems to work pretty well for faces regardless. This is a huge improvement in clarity, even with the IR bright spot, and it makes this an actual usable image where you can identify people at night, which really couldn't be said for the Aqara. And I think if the camera was angled away from the door even more, this would look even better. It's a shame that the included wedge isn't enough of an angle to avoid this, which is strange because loads and loads of houses, maybe it's just in the UK, I'm not sure, but loads of houses here have their doorbells on a 90-degree right angle to the door. So you think it would make sense for the angle to be larger, otherwise everyone is going to have this problem. Anyways, in the future I'll probably print a more angled wedge like this one provided by this helpful user on printables. Thanks! But yeah, really happy with the nighttime image. I think it is a huge improvement over the Aqara and certainly a really usable image. The microphone again is totally usable. I would say it's a little bit better than the Aqara, but both work really well. The Reolink Video Doorbell only has official support for Alexa and Google Home, both of which can load the live stream, but neither support automations for doorbell pressing or anything like that. There is also no support for HomeKit, but apparently this should work through the scripted route if you want to go down and start messing with that, though that is a little bit more advanced, so the Aqara definitely wins when it comes to those three platforms. But the one everyone is probably patiently waiting to hear about with this doorbell is Home Assistant, and I must say, support for this doorbell in Home Assistant is amazing. This doorbell has all of the options available for like everything you could possibly want inside of Home Assistant. The sub view, the main view, doorbell presses, motion sensors, person detection sensors, and tons of other controls are all available. This is by far the most complete doorbell I've seen in terms of Home Assistant integrations. And what's more is it also supports RTSP and OnVIF, so you can integrate it with any NVR of your choice, such as Blue Iris or Frigate. It's available as an option inside that you can toggle on or off. See, Aqara, that wasn't so hard. Just a little toggle, you know, a little toggle. I did want to talk about the motion detection on this camera, which is a little bit different to the G4. The Reolink has regular motion sensitivity along with person detection, but no face detection, which isn't a huge deal breaker for me personally. And the out-of-the-box settings for detection are insanely sensitive for me and result in a lot of false positives, to the point where you open a notification and you can't see anything moving at all. And now the good thing is that this has quite a bit of customizability over the settings, including sensitivity for both the motion and person detection, along with alarm delay, motion zones, and privacy masks. The alarm delay in particular seems to help a lot with reducing notifications. Even adding 1 second to this has helped me reduce false positives by so much, and I'm sure with tweaking some of the other settings it will be really good. But just wanted to make you aware that the out-of-the-box settings are a little bit nuts. And remember that you can integrate this with any NVR that you want, so this makes it less of a problem as you can use the detection or AI algorithms on those other platforms which might work better. A few other things that could use improvements was stuff like notifications. Firstly, there is no image shown with notifications, which I really miss, and this is actually something I forgot to mention in the Aqara video that doesn't do either. The images in the notifications are really handy and let you get a quick glance so that you can decide to even open them or bring them up or not. Notifications on the Reolink also don't bring you into the clips, but rather they just open the live view. I'd prefer if it was an option to take you into the motion event rather than the live view, as I might not open the notification immediately, so bringing up the live view is kind of pointless sometimes. So these are some of the things that I would like to see improved with the notifications. Finally, I did of course want to test the internet blocking of the device, which if you remember with the Aqara, it did work, but it had that bug or problem where when you rebooted it, it wouldn't come back on. The Reolink has no such issue as I suspected, since I've tested lots of their cameras in the past, and I was pretty sure the doorbell would be no different. And yeah, you can block the internet on the doorbell and everything will continue working. You can reboot it and it will keep working locally, events keep recording, playback works, and just zero issues with blocking of the internet. You love to see it. The final verdict for these two doorbells is actually a lot easier than I initially thought it was going to be. Price-wise, they are pretty much identical, so really what it comes down to is platform and customizability. If you are using Google Home, Amazon, or especially HomeKit, then the Aqara G4 is probably a much better buy for you, given its really quick, easy integration into those platforms. If you are a Home Assistant user, or if you want to use your own NVR, the Reolink is going to be a way better option for you, given its awesome Home Assistant integration and RTSP and on-VIF functionality, which really opens up an insane amount of customization and possibilities for this doorbell. Image quality is also better on the Reolink, especially at nighttime. It's a huge upgrade. But then the Aqara has the SD card inside of your house, which is better, and it can also be fully wireless. So it just depends really which of those features matter more to you over the others, and where you actually want to use this doorbell. At the end of the day, both are really good, and it just depends what you need from them, and we'll have links to both of them down in the description if you want to pick either of them up. And that is about it for this video. What did you think of these two different doorbells? I think a large amount of you will like the Reolink for its integration with Home Assistant, but honestly both are pretty nice, and it's cool to actually see some progress in the doorbell department. I do feel like video doorbells is a category that has been lagging behind some of the others a little bit, so yeah, good to see two new players entering the space, but interested to hear which one you prefer down in the comments. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to drop this video a like and get subscribed, and I will see you in the next video. I almost said the best video there.